Rain tapped rhythmically against the towering floor-to-ceiling windows of my mother's coastal mansion in Monterey, California. But the real storm wasn't outside, it was unfolding inside the grand dining room, where tension clung to the air like humidity. "Well done, Julian," my mother said, her tone brisk as she slid a thick envelope across the gleaming glass table toward my younger half-brother. "You've earned this." That envelope held everything: sole ownership of the house, full control of the family foundation, and access to the entire trust fund, all transferred to him. I sat rigid across from them, 36 years old, suddenly transported back to being the forgotten child. Beneath the table, my hands shook ever so slightly, curled into quiet fists. Julian couldn't even meet my gaze. He stared down at the envelope as if afraid it might disappear if he blinked. My stepfather swirled his wine lazily, lips curved into a smug, restrained grin. Then my mother turned her eyes on me. "And as for you, Ava," she said, her voice cool and detached, "you've always been too emotional, too dreamy. Just not equipped for reality." The words hit harder than I expected. There were 5 of us present: my mother, Julian, my stepfather, the family lawyer, and me, yet I had never felt more completely alone. She gestured toward the man in the tailored gray suit. "Let's finalize the documents." "Mom," I said softly, hoping for something: a pause, a flicker of doubt. But she dismissed it with a scoff. "You walked away, Ava. Left the firm to go teach in the middle of nowhere. Peru, wasn't it? What did that get you? Bug bites and a tarp over your head." "You never asked me why," I said quietly. "Not even once." "Because it didn't matter," she snapped back. "Julian stayed." "Julian proved himself." "No," I replied, my voice calm and deliberate. "He played a part, the one you needed him to fill." She rolled her eyes in annoyance. But before she could say more, the lawyer, Mr. Beckett, a sharp-eyed man in his early 60s, lifted a hand. "There is one important detail we must address before proceeding." My mother blinked, caught off guard. "What detail?" He opened his folder slowly. "A clause. Quietly inserted, but entirely legal. Your late husband added it himself." Mr. Beckett met her gaze directly. "There is a sealed amendment to the trust. It was filed 7 years ago at Mr. Edward Whitmore's personal request." I felt my chest constrict. My grandfather, the only one who ever truly believed in me, had once told me that my quiet strength held more weight than most people's loudest declarations. "What amendment?" my mother snapped, her voice tight with irritation. Mr. Beckett calmly retrieved a faded document from the leather binder. This was notarized during Mr. Whitmore's final weeks. He left specific instructions. This document was to remain sealed unless an attempt was made to remove Miss Ava Whitmore from the succession line. My mother's mask faltered for the first time. "He didn't have that kind of authority." "He most certainly did," Mr. Beckett said evenly. "Your late husband retained a 52% controlling interest in the Whitmore family trust until his passing. That interest carried forward with instructions that override any recent arrangements." Julian stiffened beside her. My stepfather didn't speak, his wine glass hung suspended in midair, forgotten. Mr. Beckett turned toward me. "Miss Ava, would you prefer to read it aloud, or shall I?" I gave a subtle shake of my head, my focus still locked on the envelope meant to erase me. "Please go ahead." He unfolded the parchment carefully, reading it with measured clarity. "Should my granddaughter, Ava Whitmore, ever be deemed unfit or unsuitable by her family, I hereby transfer full governance and all voting authority over my shares of the Whitmore Trust and its affiliated entities to her. These provisions shall become effective immediately and will override any prior declarations." He looked up briefly, then continued. "Additionally, no modifications to estate ownership or internal governance shall be considered valid without Miss Whitmore's written approval." The room fell into an uneasy hush. Even the waves beyond the windows seemed to hold their breath. "What is that supposed to mean?" my mother barked. Mr. Beckett turned to her, then to me. "It means that your daughter is now the majority controller of the trust. None of the documents signed today can move forward without her signature." My mother shot to her feet, her chair dragging loudly across the polished marble floor. "She isn't ready for this. She's never set foot in a boardroom, never read a financial report." "Maybe not your kind of experience," I replied, rising to my feet as well. "But I've led people. I've protected those who couldn't protect themselves. I've built things that endure." Then I turned to Mr. Beckett. "Let's move forward. There's work to be done." Julian looked panicked, his gaze flitting between faces. My stepfather turned his head away, saying nothing. My mother didn't sit back down. She stood motionless, as though the realization of losing control had frozen her. She remained silent, but the stiffness in her posture betrayed everything she was feeling. And that's when I noticed it, something I had never once seen in her eyes. Not anger. Not disappointment. Fear. Not of me, but of the weight of no longer holding the reins. I softened my voice. You can sit down, Mom. This isn't about getting even. I never wanted revenge. All I ever asked for was a seat at the table, a voice, a fair chance. Still, she didn't move. Then Julian broke the silence. Wait, this isn't fair. Ava left. She disappeared. What, to go build dollhouses in the jungle? I built safe housing for women escaping abusive homes, I answered. I helped veterans find stable footing again. I didn't walk away from this family, I walked toward something meaningful. He scoffed dismissively. Sure, that's touching. But that's not how you run Reno Holdings. I let a small smile rise. No, maybe it's not. But it's exactly how you rebuild its soul. What Ava did next wouldn't just reshape the Whitmore legacy, it would upend every illusion of control her family thought they held. I know enough, I said, fixing my gaze on Julian, to know you've been funneling trust money through a shell consulting firm in Nevada, one conveniently owned by your old fraternity brother. Julian's face drained of color. My mother drew in a sharp breath. Ava, stop, she said, her voice taut. This is still family. Family? I echoed, my voice tightening. Was it family when you all stood by while I was written out of everything? When you applauded Julian and dismissed every sacrifice I made for this family? You never belonged in this world, she muttered, eyes lowered and voice quiet. No, I said with a steady nod. You made that very clear. But grandfather didn't see it that way. Mr. Beckett, who had remained respectfully silent, cleared his throat gently. Miss Ava, your grandfather's bequest extended beyond voting shares, he said. He left behind something else, meant to be opened precisely at this moment. He reached into his briefcase and retrieved a weathered leather box. Inside was a gold-plated compass. Beneath it, a folded letter bearing my name, handwritten in my grandfather's familiar, elegant script. With trembling fingers, I opened the note. My dearest Ava, if you are reading this, then your mother has done what I feared she would. Do not hold anger in your heart. She was raised in a world where love was measured through control. But you've always been different. Quiet in your strength, clear in your vision. You are the compass. Trust yourself. Lead and others will follow. With love, grandfather. Tears welled up, but I blinked them back. I looked up and said evenly, let's continue. I signed the documents that officially acknowledged my authority over the trust. Only then did my mother find her voice again. You think this makes you powerful? She spat. You think he left this for you out of affection? It was spite, a final jab at me. I didn't respond as her daughter aching for recognition. I met her gaze as a woman seeing truth with clarity for the first time. No, I replied quietly. He left it because he believed in what I had already begun to build. Then I walked out, and with each step, the weight of decades of being overlooked and underestimated fell away like dust shaken from an old coat. But peace didn't greet me beyond those doors. War did, because power always unsettles those who've long abused it. I had barely reached the corridor when I heard hurried footsteps behind me. Ava, Julian called out. I turned to face him. His tone was calm, almost casual, but his eyes gave him away. They were sharp, focused, calculating. You don't have to do this, he said. Do what? I asked, my voice cool. Freeze me out. That's your next move, right? I haven't made any moves, I replied evenly. All I did was stand up. He tilted his head with a smirk. You think signing a few forms makes you a leader? You don't have the stomach for this. My pulse quickened, but I held my ground. I'm not here to prove anything to you. I'm here to lead with purpose. Something this family forgot a long time ago. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. 2 months, he said. You'll come crawling back. This company isn't some charity project. It's war. No, I responded quietly. It's a platform. And I intend to use it to lift people up, not crush them beneath it. He turned and walked away, but the tension in his clenched fist said everything. This wasn't surrender, it was regrouping. And the days that followed confirmed it. The whispers began immediately. Ava Whitmore had returned, and this time, she wasn't just visiting. For some, it was a spark of hope. For others, a sign of trouble ahead. I didn't call emergency meetings. I didn't hand out pink slips. I listened. And what I heard was sobering. Departments at odds with each other. Promotions given as rewards for blind loyalty, not actual merit. Overworked staff left to burn out in silence. This wasn't a business, it was a fiefdom. And Julian had ruled through confusion and favoritism. One afternoon, I stepped into the break room. Conversation stopped abruptly. "Please," I said gently, raising a hand. "You're on break. Stay seated. Relax." A custodian named Lena hesitated, then slowly stood. We weren't allowed to sit if Mr. Julian walked in. I paused, then shook my head. "That rule changes today." Her shoulders softened. She sat down again, and the rest followed her lead. That night, I stayed late. Long after the last car left the parking lot, I was still there, surrounded by flickering fluorescent light, sifting through the shadows Julian had left behind. 3 major budget discrepancies. 1 illegal contract signed with a fake vendor. And a list 6 employees who had been fired after raising concerns about ethics. This wasn't just negligence. It was systemic rot. If I didn't act quickly, I wouldn't just be inheriting a mess. I'd be the one held accountable when it collapsed. The next morning, Julian burst into my office, radiating fury behind a forced smirk. He slapped a thick folder onto my desk. "So you want the CEO seat?" he sneered. "Let's see how long you last." I opened it slowly, screenshots, emails, and staged photographs. All doctored. "These are fabrications," I said, flipping through the pages calmly. "Can you prove that?" he said with a cruel grin. I looked up and held his gaze. "You're really that willing to destroy everything just to take me down?" "I want what's mine," Julian answered coldly. "You were never meant to be in this room," Julian said, his voice bitter. I stood still, composed. "I don't want a throne, Julian," I said. "I just want to repair the damage you left behind." He sneered. "You see healing. I see weakness." Then he turned his back on me and walked away, convinced I'd fall apart under pressure. That was the moment I understood. This wasn't a sibling dispute. This was war. But unlike Julian, I had something real behind me. I had the truth. Still, within 48 hours, the headlines exploded like grenades. New CEO linked to mismanaged charitable funds. Leadership chaos erupts at Renard Holdings. Ava Whitmore, unfit heiress or master manipulator. The fact that none of it was true didn't matter. The internet didn't wait for verification. My inbox overflowed. Calls from shareholders came in waves. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. I had barely started the job and already I was fighting for survival. I told myself to stay grounded, that truth would win out. But that night, curled up on the worn couch in my office, the storm inside me broke loose. No dramatic scene. Just quiet sobs muffled by the fabric of my sleeve. I wasn't crying because others believed the lies. I cried because, for one fleeting moment, I started to believe them too. Maybe I really wasn't enough. Maybe my grandfather had been wrong. A soft knock at the door pulled me back. I wiped my eyes, cleared my throat. "Come in." The door creaked open. Lena entered, holding a paper cup filled with tea. "I thought you might need this," she said. "You didn't have to," I whispered, touched by the gesture. She sat beside me without hesitation. "You looked like you did." Then she added, "When I cried in this room, no one ever brought me anything. Maybe it's time someone broke that pattern." Her words nestled into a hollow space inside my chest. "Thank you," I said quietly. She looked straight into my eyes. "Miss Ava, would you like to hear the truth about your family?" I paused, then nodded. "I've worked here for 28 years, she said softly. "I've seen more than they think. I know what they try to bury." My throat tightened. I stayed silent. "You've always looked people in the eye," she continued gently. "That's why I trust you." "Why help me?" I asked, my voice barely audible. A small, knowing smile tugged at her lips. "Because someone once helped me when no one else would. And because what this place needs isn't another ruler." She reached out, resting her hand over mine. "It needs a healer." The following morning, I entered the boardroom with calm purpose. They were all already seated, expensive shoes polished to a shine, gazes sharp, and voices sharpened by doubt. I let them speak first. Accusations flew, questions of competence, even veiled threats. One shareholder said flatly that he would sue unless I stepped aside quietly. Once the chaos died down, I rose to speak. "If anyone here can prove the documents circulating online are genuine," I said clearly, "I will resign right now." A heavy silence followed. Then I slid a thick folder across the table, audit trails, hidden financial inconsistencies, side payments funneled through fake consultant contracts. Every trail led to Julian. I clicked the remote in my hand. The projector screen came to life. Grainy footage filled the wall. Julian, entering the finance department after hours, accessing a locked terminal, inserting a USB drive. The timestamp? The same night those fake documents were created. No one said a word. Truth matters, I said. But I didn't come here to destroy my brother. I came to repair what he compromised. I turned to the legal advisor. My grandfather didn't choose me because I was flawless. He chose me because I believe people can change, even the ones who hurt us most. I'm not pressing charges, I continued. But Julian is suspended effective immediately, pending a full investigation. The room sat in stunned silence. Then Mr. Malcolm, an elder board member with silver hair and a history with the company, slowly stood. I misjudged you, he said. I thought you were too gentle for this. But today you reminded me why this company was created in the first place. It wasn't about domination. It was about people. No one clapped. No one cheered. But something shifted, a quiet, collective acknowledgement. Julian never came back. But 2 days later a handwritten envelope appeared on my desk. Ava, I don't expect you to forgive me. I didn't just want the company, I wanted to be seen. I always thought you got the love I never did. Maybe you just earned it differently. Julian. I folded the letter and placed it next to my grandfather's compass. Not every fight ends in fire. Some end in silence. And some victories come not through wrath but through grace. The office felt different now. Not silent, present. Awake. Grounded. A month had passed since that day in the boardroom. The media outlets retracted the accusations. Some chalked it up to luck. But the people who mattered knew better. It wasn't luck. It was conviction. The strength to hold the line when walking away would have been so much easier. There was still one voice I hadn't heard. My mother's. No emails. No calls. Not even a legal threat. I figured she was somewhere quietly rewriting the story to suit herself. Until one still Sunday morning, I walked into my office and found her already there. She was seated across from my desk. No makeup. No armor. Just folded hands and weary eyes. I needed to see it, she said softly. See what? That you didn't burn everything down. I didn't answer. She looked older than I remembered. Smaller, like the weight of years had finally caught up to her. You were right, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. About Julian. About me. About all the things we lost sight of. I stayed silent. I wasn't ready to make it easy for her. She reached into her purse and handed me an old photograph. It was me at 12, splattered in paint beside Grandpa, both of us laughing. He said you'd change everything, she whispered. I just didn't want to believe him. If I did, I said gently, it's only because he believed in me first. She nodded slowly. I came to say something. Something I should have said a long time ago. She looked up, locking eyes with me. I'm sorry, Ava. For everything. For the first time, I didn't feel small in her presence. Because healing doesn't begin with blame. It begins the moment someone decides to break the cycle. So I nodded. Thank you. I just had to say it. Before I ran out of time, she murmured. Then don't, I replied softly. Fix what you can. It's not too late. She didn't respond, just held my gaze for a long, quiet moment before leaving the room. 2 weeks later, Lena entered my office holding a worn folder in her hands. What's this? I asked softly, accepting the folder Lena handed me. It's a list, she replied gently. Everyone your mother forced out for speaking the truth. I thought you'd want to see it. I opened the worn folder and read each name. Slowly. Carefully. Then we sent out letters, each one brief, offering a quiet invitation to return. No explanations. No apologies. Just a door reopened. Not because I wanted to rewrite history, but because legacy isn't about family trees or last names. It's about what people feel when you're no longer in the room. Months went by. Renard Holdings didn't transform into something glossy or glamorous overnight, but it did change. It became warmer. Human again. Julian never came back to the company. But we met for coffee once. There were no apologies exchanged. No speeches. Just silence and a shared understanding. And maybe that was enough. My mother remained at a distance, but one afternoon a receipt arrived at my office. A generous donation had been made in my name to the housing nonprofit I once worked for. There was no message attached. No signature. Just her way of saying she was trying. And somehow that was enough too. Because I never chased revenge. I earned something far more enduring. Peace. Self-respect. A future no one could strip away. These days, when I walk into the boardroom, the hush of suspicion is gone. I hear the footsteps of people walking with me, not behind me. Because once, someone told me I would never be enough. And I proved them wrong without ever becoming like them. If any part of my story stirred something in you, leave a comment. Let me know which moment stayed with you. And if you're walking your own quiet road back to strength, don't forget to subscribe. The world needs more voices like yours.